We all make choices. But in the end, our choices make us. So choose wisely. Subscribe to It's Erik Nagel wherever podcasts are found. And leave a positive review, won't you kindly?
Hey, this is Elvis Duran. Just want to wish our friend Erik Nagel and the It's Erik Nagel Show a happy anniversary. How he lasted this long, we just don't know. He's not going to hear this, right?
Now, what am I supposed to say? A big greeting for E-Rock?
Yeah.
I love that guy. I've known him since he was a kid. Hi, this is Scott Shannon, along with my cohorts, Patty Steele and Brad Blanks.
Hey, E-Rock, you legend.
And we would like to congratulate E-Rock on finally getting his own show.
Scott, he didn't just get a show, he's had one for years.
Yes, serious. Sorry.
Holy crap.
And he's on with Giddles.
What's a giddle? I thought he was working at Chipotle.
Giddles?
No, E-Rock, you dumbass.
Duh.
Anyway, congratulations on your anniversary.
Hey, it's Jade Donovan from Todd and Jade of the Morning on 95.5 PLJ in New York City and unwilling annual participant of Jocktober. You may know me as Girl Photoshopped with Wiener in hand, or my personal favorite, Girl with Wiener Photoshopped on forehead. I just want to take a second to congratulate the entire crew at the Erik Nagel Show on their anniversary. That would be an incredible achievement if it was a real radio show. In all seriousness, it really is amazing how you found time for your own show, given that you've been stuck up Opie's ass for so many years. I mean, that's the real achievement. Happy anniversary to everyone at the Erik Nagel Show. Much love and namaste, you assholes.
Hey, it's David Brody, executive producer of the nationally syndicated Elvis Duran in the Morning Show, and I'm the kind of executive producer of a morning show that E-Rock wishes he was. Anyway, I told him I would record this for Comic-Con tickets. So, to my friend Erik Nagel and the It's Erik Nagel Show, happy anniversary, guys.
Hey, what's up? This is Mike Calta from the Mike Calta Show in Tampa. Used to be called Cowhead because I got a big fat head. I want to say happy anniversary to my friend E-Rock, Erik Nagel, and his It's Erik Nagel Show. I was on it, and still nobody listens to it. Let that sink in, dummy. Happy anniversary, pal.
Hey, it's Josh Cohen, host of the Home Team on ESPN Radio here in South Florida. We want to take a moment to recognize Erik back in the day on Real Radio, a guy that most everyone said would never make it in radio, would never actually do anything in this industry. Well, guess what? Everybody was right. Yet somehow he's celebrating an anniversary right now. Congratulations, Erik. You proved us all wrong. And a happy anniversary, bro.
Hey, it's Scary Jones from Elvis Duran in the Morning Show. I wanted to wish my friend Erik Nagel and the It's Erik Nagel Show a happy final anniversary. How the hell has he flown under the radar for this long?
Hey, it's Oscar from Big O and Dukes. Congratulations, it's your anniversary. Most shows get canceled within 2 years, at least Big O and Dukes does. But the fact that we have remained friends for so long means the world. Congratulations, Erik. Now, Chad has some loving and supportive words for you.
Not sure why a part-time show would celebrate an anniversary. It really means nothing.
Ladies and gentlemen of the universe, the next voice you hear.
It's Erik Nagel.
Hello and welcome to another edition of It's Erik Nagel, a special edition, if you will, of this particular program because we are featuring our very first show that we did 4 years ago today, June 28th, 2014, the very first airing of It's Erik Nagel. At the time, we were at Sirius XM. We were a 1 hour program. Mando G is going to be joining me in just a few minutes to go over some of the thoughts about starting the show and what happened during the first show before actually going into the first show. So there's a lot to get to here. But I wanted to start with something that, to be honest, I forgot that we did. When we went to launch the show, I thought it would be kind of cool to do a retrospective of all the shows that started and developed on Saturday nights when the channel was still called The Virus over at XM. We called it the Saturday Night Virus, where we would have from 8 to midnight a 3-hour block of programming where it was all different kinds of shows from all different walks of life, be it comedians or I think Matt's Geek Stuff show was in there for a little while. We had Kevin Smith's Smodcast was with us for years. Right after it was in the first year of him starting Smodcast, we started to air it on the channel throughout the United States and Canada. And Kevin talks about that in a couple of his Smodcasts, the history of Smodcast. Dr. Steve was there. Sam had like 3 or 4 different shows before going on to doing his own thing. There was a lot of stuff going on Saturday night, so I thought it would be kind of cool to do a retrospective, a bit of a montage leading up to the start of our show, highlighting and saluting, I guess, the programs that came before us on Saturday nights on what was the Virus channel. So that's what you're going to hear right now. It's a little bit lengthy, but you'll get through it. For those of you that have been with Opie and Anthony for a long time, this is a walk down memory lane. You're going to go, oh, wow, I forgot all about these programs. Or oh, there's Steve C's voice and a lot of the imaging there. For those who didn't follow us on satellite radio and are just hearing us because we came to iHeartRadio or found our podcast, however you found it, this is all going to be brand new to you. So if you want to skip ahead 4 minutes, go ahead. I'm not going to fault you for it, but if you want to stick around and take a listen, this is the montage of everything that happened on the former The Virus channel, Saturday Night Virus. That was the preamble to the start of the very first It's Erik Nagel.
This channel has gone through a few changes.
Opie and Anthony on High Voltage XM 202. XM News, talk, and information. It's everything, all the time.
High Voltage is an XL channel which may include explicit language.
The Opie and Anthony Show. XM 202. XM 202.
Sirius 197, XM 202. The Virus.
Gentlemen, number Sirius 197, check. XM 202. The Virus.
You're listening to the Opie and Anthony channel on Sirius XM.
The Opie and Anthony channel. All Opie, all Anthony, all the time.
It's real.
And in that time, has developed something kind of special on the weekends.
Saturday Night Virus.
A fine tradition of outstanding quality programming.
Saturday Night Virus begins now.
This is as disorganized as it comes.
It's the Bob Kelly and sometimes Colin Quinn show. With Bob Kelly. And sometimes Colin Quinn.
Shut up, stupid.
You just kind of push your face in and suck.
No mercy, no pity, no fear.
The domain of a very rabid lunatic French.
Welcome to Dee Dee's Basement.
Hi, everybody. It's Dee Dee's Basement. I'm Dee Dee.
It's story time with Francine.
Welcome to Story Time with Francine. It's Saturday. I think we're in July, I believe. I don't really count. I think it is Saturday.
It's Brother Wheeze on XM 202, The Virus.
Hey kids, it's Brother Wheeze, The Virus.
The following show is proof that there's more to geek culture than comic books and fancy cell phones. It's Big Kev's Geek Stuff.
Come on, you fuckers think that just because a guy reads comics he can't start some shit? I'll fucking take all you want!
Very few people can be totally ruthless. It isn't easy. It takes more strength than you might believe. We shall strive to be worthy of your sense of grandeur.
You're, listening to The Arena with Master Poe.
Welcome to Puppies and Sunshine with Otto and George.
Welcome to Puppies and Sunshine with Otto and George. Wow, this is loud. This is great.
Yeah, that's all right.
We're good.
I didn't hear the Laurel and Hardy. I have no fucking taste in heavy metal at all.
It's the Rick Shapiro and Gino Visconti Show.
This is Gino Visconti, and this is the Shapiro Visconti Show. Welcome back to our second extravaganza.
Yeah, welcome back, and good morning.
Is it? It's not morning anyway.
No, but that goes with welcome back.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it's polite bullshit.
Bad news with Bob Kelly.
We're not in radio. I don't want to be a radio guy. Do you?
And Russ Maneve.
Yeah.
You do? All right, well, then you have a lot riding on this.
Yeah.
Featuring sexy slit Kathy.
Dude, I do a fucking Saturday night show. I did it with Colin, Mike DiStefano. Everybody's fucking failed me. Well, they didn't really fail me. I just failed them. I didn't do any prep. I don't care. All we have to do for this show is have a bunch of topics and hope that one of them is interesting.
It's bad news.
No, well, most of the news is bad.
Terrible.
And we're going to have our own spin on it. We'll try to make it good, but let's face it, it's fucking bad news out there. And we're going to address it the way it should be addressed.
With Bob Kelly.
What else are you doing on a Saturday night?
And Russ Manee.
You're going to get what we give you, and you're going to like it.
Yeah, take it on the face, take it on your cheek like a man.
It's Louis C.K.
Hello. This is Louis C.K. I'm on the virus. Saturday night.
Hey, this is Kevin Smith.
Scott Mosier.
And Smodcast starts now, bitch.
Quick Stop Entertainment presents Smodcast. Smodcast with Kevin Smith and Scott Mosier.
Bunch of savages.
On XM 202, The Virus.
One show, fighting to show 'em we're no dogs but men. Men who remember freedom, where 16-year-olds can drink and listen to metal music and smoke at bars and get into high-speed accidents. Men who have punch cards at Planned Parenthood. This is the Laszlo Show.
Now, with their own show.
You're jacking it to a guy in a wig.
Now, with their own show.
I thought I kind of sucked.
I get nervous.
It just filled me with a white-hot rage.
It's Fan and Sam.
Activate new music browser.
He had a voice that could make a Wolverine purr.
Sam.
I'm a salesman, goddammit. I was born to sell.
And then.
You're going to get me angry, Sam.
This shit is hot, 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 hot.
Anthem, put your hand up that you shoot with. Put your hand up that you shoot with. Put your hand up that you shoot with.
Now, Fan and Sam.
And now, Uninformed with Bill Burr and Joe DeRosa. No reading, no research, just strong opinions.
Hey, what's going on? Bill Burr, Joe DeRosa. Another episode of Uninformed. I feel that was creepy. Yeah, was.
Women's power is in your fear of whatever they're gonna do.
Black Phillip.
Fat-tongued mongoloid.
Love doctor.
I told my girl she's the fourth most important thing in my life.
So sensitive.
It was me, my career,
Family.
my mother, and then her.
Smooth as silk.
She only thinks she knows shit because I tell her shit.
Wow.
Keeping your pan strong.
I think my girl in my life is worth 5 bitches now.
Special delivery.
Sam.
No, I'd rather follow an elephant than drunk drive.
Really?
Because you might get away with it and at least have a story to tell.
East Side.
I get to do what
Dave,
I want.
your pants are down.
Oh.
Special delivery.
Special delivery starring Sam and Dave.
And now, that tradition continues. Hopefully.
Well, that was absurdly long, but, like I'll state later in the program, I learned a lot from Opie and Anthony where how do we extend the intro to go as long as possible so we have less show to do?
That's right. If you have an hour-long show, you can have a 55-minute long intro.
Right. We almost made the 10-minute mark, I remember, between that. And then there's a Club Soda Kenny intro that's still yet to come. That you'll hear in just a moment. I'm back here. It's me, Eric, and Matt O'G's joining me. The other part of It's Erik Nagel. Yes. He was there from the very beginning, the concept development, and the very first show. Matt, what do you remember about? What about starting this show? For a while, Opie kept pushing me. He's like, "You got to do your own show. You got to do this," and I just didn't feel like doing it at the time because. You know how hostile and toxic that environment is, and I just didn't want to do something that I wasn't fully ready to do, where I know the clips were going to be pulled for Monday and I was just going to get destroyed.
So, having already been part of that experience through Geek Stuff, I was terrified to do it. I'm not going to lie. However, somehow, miraculously, and this went right through to the end pretty much, we never got tore up.
No.
I mean, they were always respectful to us. The handful of times they brought us up in the air, it was respectful. We never got tore up on Reddit. Of course, now I'm opening up the can of worms, but we always managed to just put out our show, do the content we were doing, and just enjoy doing it. It was a great experience.
Well, let me point out something that might have been a bit of a buffer. So our first show was June 28th, 2014. About a week later, Anthony gets fired.
Was it really only a week later?
It was, because he was fired on 4th of July. We all got the phone call that morning that Anthony was let go.
Yeah. I think I was at your house later that day.
Yeah, where that was a horrible day. We're sitting there like, I don't know if I have a job anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we did our first show, and then we were off for 4th of July vacation, and Anthony wound up getting fired. So by the time we came back, there was enough to deal with at that point that we were not really a priority. So we got probably about maybe a month of a bye before anybody even said anything about what we were doing. When we put the show together, we were trying to figure out, like, well, what do we do? Here's something that you may not know. I think I've mentioned it a few times, but for those listening who don't know the whole history about our show or our ties with Opie and Anthony or Sirius XM or whatever, the reason why the show has my name in it was because when we went to do a program, both Opie and the management wanted to have my name in it, saying for recognition, that people were going to, if we came up with a different name, people would be like, I don't know what that show is, and they wouldn't probably go and check it out right away. But if I had my name in it, and then the main show was talking about, like, Eric has a show, Friday nights and on the weekend, that they'd be more inclined to probably go and check it out. So it started out that way. The reason why the name is It's Erik Nagel is it's a cross between, Steve Coogan's character, Alan Partridge?
Yes.
Okay. So his was I'm Alan Partridge, right?
Right.
And then I was like, well, I could do I'm Erik Nagel, but that seemed a little pretentious. And then I somehow the homeless It's guy from Monty Python for that first season, where he'd just be in horrific situations, like he's almost dying, and he would go, It's, and then Monty Python's thing would start.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? Let's merge the two. So it's Erik Nagel. That's why we had the title. And over the years, I have told Matt, and when Giddles only came in a couple weeks later, he wasn't that far off from the.
Oh, he wasn't
from the start of the show. He just wasn't with us the first couple of shows. But I had told him, I said, look, if we move this show to another place that wants to do this full time, I'll gladly give up the name and we'll change it to something more fitting that includes all of us. It just has not hit that point yet. But so we go and set up, and we're like, okay, we're going to do the first show. And Matt was kind enough to agree to do this with me, because I told him, we can cross promote geek stuff. And this is, it was a paying gig at the time. Matt knows how to do radio, even though he's not professionally in the business. And I was comfortable with him, and we had a lot of similar interests and a lot of differences that if I go on my weird little rants or complaining, as Matt likes to say, old man, yells at cloud, I say shakes fist vigorously and while yelling on the lawn. Matt has a good counter to what my thing is, and then sometimes Matt gets a little silly and I have a counter to that. It felt comfortable and it worked. So he agrees to do this, and let's do the first show. They only wanted to give us 1 hour, which is what we started, every other week. They didn't even trust us to do a show weekly. And how do you build anything if you're not doing it consistently? Like, I get you don't want to give me 5 days a week or during the week at this point to start. Totally get it. But if I'm going to do a weekend show, let us do it every weekend so we can build it up, get comfortable, used to what we're doing.
Well, that company is like the equivalent of Fox, just setting stuff up for failure.
Right. So we go and we do the first show, and then the Anthony situation happens. So we don't come back for a couple of weeks. Neither does Opie and Jimmy. They had us in best of mode until we could figure out what they were doing. They signed new contracts. We changed all our agreements around, etc. So we come back. We do the show. And management still wants us every other week. And we were off for, I think, at least 2 weeks at this point. They wanted us to do another every other week. Well, luckily, the WWE came in and did a big buy in July for Sirius XM. And we had live reads that were sold. So we had to be on every week because something was sold on our show.
Right.
And that forced the hand where they're like, well, you got to let us on every week. So we had, I think it was like a 3-week buy or something. No, I think it was leading into SummerSlam. So we had a few weeks. So we were on every weekend. And then at that point, when they're like, all right, well, we're going to go back to the other, Don Wicklund, we're going to go back to the other schedule. No, we're not. We're staying on every week. I'm coming in and doing this every week. Then they left us alone.
Yeah, I mean, it was really pointless for us to do every other week. We never had an issue filling up content. And as far as like the show developing, we hit all of the right strides. Like out of the gate. We were very lucky in how the show kind of rolled out. I mean, if memory serves me, Jimmy came and did the show with us fairly early on, like August or September. He sat in with us to talk about animation. He hadn't launched his animation project yet, but he was like...
and we told him, we were telling him about... I remember I bought him Rick and Morty and a few other things. Like, look at what's out there, get a feel for a style that you want, and then pursue animators who can do what you do.
And then we also did our very first beer show.
In the summer.
In the summer.
Right, so, with Masters of None, yeah,
which was really well received. And I think we just, not to take the credit away from us, because obviously we put the work in, but I think we just hit all of the right strides. We hit enough of the notes to kind of just let us almost fly under the radar. Like, don't bother them.
Yeah.
They're putting out content. It seems to be well received. They're not blowing anything up.
Look, I've been doing radio. I hate to quote somebody else, but I've been doing radio since I was a teenager, and I know what I was doing. I just wasn't comfortable a few years back because of the climate with O&A. That was my own fault, where I was just like, I could have went and done the show, braved through it, and then moved on. And I just didn't until this particular point where I said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to give it a shot, and let's do it.
And credit to Giddles, man. Giddles rolled right in, and Giddles is very conversational and does not have a hard time talking to anybody about anything.
Nope.
So he didn't need like some sort of huge pedigree behind him. He is just a natural. And I was lucky enough to have, at that point, I was podcasting for 9 years, I think. So, I mean, I had a little bit of experience, at least, talking and carrying a conversation.
Right.
So, like I said, I think I think the chemistry worked.
It definitely did work. Oh, it was also important, too, when we were mapping out what the show was going to be. We were catering to our strengths of what we know and what we were good at. And everything I tried to bring to Opie and Anthony would not get touched on a lot because Jim was so out of date with pop culture references and programming. Ope refused to watch any of the shows that were popular or things that people were talking about at that time. He just refused to watch anything that was going on. And Anthony was pretty up to date with either TV shows or movies, even though he preferred the older stuff, but he knew everything that was going on.
Anthony was always a nerd.
Right. So if we would bring stuff, like they'd be talking about something like, I don't get what this is, and I would come in and tell them about the TV show or about the movie or whatever this was. And whether they went with it or fell on deaf ears, it still was what I was doing. I said, they're not talking about this stuff. It should be discussed. So we decided to do pretty much the first show was everything Opie and Anthony didn't do or wouldn't talk about is what we were going to do.
Sure.
And then it was also important to not be anything like Opie and Anthony, where we didn't want to use the references unless, we were referring to something that happened during the week. We didn't want to use the references on the show. We didn't want to try to mimic what they were doing. I've heard podcasts and other radio programs where they've listened to O&A and they've listened to Howard and other influential radio shows for so long. When they go to try to do it, it sounds exactly like you're doing a lower version of these other shows.
There are a million podcasts out there that sound like a bunch of guys trying to do Smodcast, for example.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, we didn't want to do that. And, and we didn't have to. We didn't have to do any of that stuff.
No. So we went, what you're going to hear is the very first show that we did. And our first guest is my pal Mike O'Mara, who is one half of the Don and Mike show, who went on to, after their split, did his show on terrestrial syndication for a while and then moved over to the podcast universe, where he's one of those rare entities where he's doing a daily podcast that streams live, phones, everything like a radio show. Plus, then it gets sent to, he has terrestrial affiliates. So then they take the show and air it later in the day in different markets around the country.
Yeah, that's great.
So he had a book coming out at the time, and I was like, you know what? He's got some O&A history. You know, I'm sure some of the audience would like to hear about, you know, the fights that they had with Opie and Anthony, and he's always been a cool guy to me. So I was like, why not? It's good to have a guest on there, and he was our first guest for that particular evening. And I think Brian Shea was on our first show.
Was Brian on our first show?
I think he was. You know what? I should have listened to the first show before we went through this. I think he was. I think he did a bit of a little gamer update before it really became a big thing with our relationship with Game Informer.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's Brian is right up there as being one of the most regular guests we have on the show.
Right.
So.
Anything else you remember about the first show, or what were your thoughts after we were done?
With the very first show?
Yeah.
Honestly, it was, you know what, I felt good about it. I think actually that night we talked about it on the way home. And again, I was worried about what the feedback was going to be, but I was comfortable in everything that we had talked about. And we were live for that first show, right? We weren't pre-recorded.
Nope.
And I was shocked at how much fan interaction we got. Because we took calls that first show, didn't we?
Yeah, we took calls the first show. We also still had the instant feedback at the time, so we could see that on the screen.
Yeah, so I mean, it was, I don't know, I guess I was really shocked about how well it was received. Because, you know, you go into that environment with that fan base, and that's all you can think about is how toxic it can be.
Right.
But, you know, you learned that a lot of the people that listened to those shows were into a lot of the stuff that we were into, even though they weren't talked about on that show. And I think we filled that niche quite nicely.
What should have been a segment of the show, you know, not like a daily segment, but an occasional regular segment on that show to discuss TV and movies and other things that associate with them. I know we go into the collectibles side, we go into the convention side, we go into the fan service, the social media aspects of everything. Should have been an element of Opie and Anthony, but like I said, we had one show completed before Opie and Anthony fell apart, but it should have carried over into some other things. They just weren't into it. Like, they liked these things, they just weren't into discussing it. Sure. And like you said, it was great to find out the fan base did like these things and did want to talk about it. So that was what we could do there.
And one of my favorite compliments, because I know we're talking a little long, but one of my favorite compliments that we still get, actually, that we got after that first show and we continue to get early on, is I love it when someone reaches out to us, either a live call or social media, and says, you know what, I don't even care about half the shit that you guys talk about, but I enjoy listening to the show. That's a huge compliment to me, because that means that we're taking something that maybe they're not into, or they're not influenced by, or they don't live and breathe like we do, and they're still finding entertainment value in it. And maybe we turn them on to something. You know, it's easy to talk to people who already like everything you talk about. It's much harder to convert somebody.
Right.
And I think we've probably done that to some people through the years.
Yeah. What's the old saying? You're preaching to the converted, and
that's right.
That's exactly what you don't want to do.
Right.
And we've been fortunate enough to hone the show to the extent of, I guess I can put it like this. So we're the kind of show where, one, we're labeled unfairly because, yeah, we did start out rather geeky, but we moved not away from it, but we've moved ahead of it.
We've grown.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about other things that, 4 years ago we wouldn't talk about on that program because we just wanted to stay away from it. But we've grown in the sense of the show where we've added more elements and more different aspects of discussion to the program than what we were doing. But we're still kind of labeled a nerdy geek show that either people just hear that and they don't want to listen to the show. They're like, I'm not into that stuff. Some people say, oh, the show is boring and they're talentless and what have you. And you'll get that anywhere if you're doing a podcast now. Everyone's going to hate you just for any reason possible. So you just go whatever and you keep doing what you're doing and you don't listen to that. But if you sat down and listened to the program, especially now, the way that it's formatted, the way the production that we have to it's not a podcast. Even though we're doing it in podcast form, it's not a podcast. It's still a radio show. It's still structured as a radio show, and it's very important to stay structured as a radio show, because if a lot of people who do podcasts are very good at it, but they're kind of, if they're just one-on-one, like Bill Burr, you know, where he can, and sometimes Kevin Smith, where they can just sit there and talk and tell their stories and their rants or whatever, and that's the format, it's fine. It's still a format. It's the shows that somebody puts down a microphone in the center of a table and you've got 6 guys talking over each other and you can barely hear it. That doesn't develop into anything. And if you listen to that, it hurts your head. And you're like, I don't know who's who. I don't know who's talking. I don't know where this is going. And it's just catastrophic. So there's nothing wrong with having a little structure and a little bit of format to what you're doing, so people know what they're getting into, and people are creatures of habit and routine, so they know if it's the same way every time, not the discussions, but the flow and the format and the feel of it, they're going to come back more and more knowing that they know what they're expecting, they know what they're getting, and this is more of a comfort to them.
Absolutely.
So enough with all of that. You know what? We're going to take a break.
Let's do it.
When we come back from the break, the very first episode of the show will start, and that's what you'll get to listen to on the rest of this podcast. Thank you, everybody who's listened to us over the years, who gave us a chance, who helps us out with our hashtag Tell Two Friends people. Tell two friends so they can tell two friends, etc., etc., etc. It really has helped us out a lot, and as much as you may enjoy what we do, we appreciate you even more for what you've done for us to allow. We're doing this because you allow us to do this, because you're there listening and downloading the program and listening on iHeartRadio, and we really do appreciate that. So we're going to continue doing this as long as it's possible to do this program. Right. So you're going to hear our very first show. Tomorrow will be a brand new show. So this is coming out on the day of our anniversary, the morning of June 28th. And then the very next day will be a brand new It's Erik Nagel show. So if you're going into that weekend, you got a twofer there for you.
Nice.
It's Erik Nagel. Hey guys, it's Rich, your voice guy. Congratulations. Truth be told, I was thinking 2, maybe 3 weeks tops, a month at the most. Especially after Anthony was fired, I thought the whole thing was going to be sports talk. At some point, you had me do a piece with Mr. Burns talking about ketchup. I thought, okay, this is the end. But hey, what do I know? Anyway, happy anniversary. Give Dr. Steve my number. I got this thing, whatever. It's Erik Nagel. Follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube, and Facebook at It's Erik Nagel. It's Erik Nagel.
Radio fans, we are now back in the studio. Stand by for your station announcement. And away we go!
Now, I know you'd love to just sit there and keep being not slim, but we got to work a little today, okay?
Broadcasting channels of the entire world will be cleared. In every continent, in every land, in all the 4 corners of the earth, the whole world over. Men, and women, and children, of every age and race, and nationality, station, and color. Men of every language ready now to listen to the same voice.
Finally, a way to combine my love of helping people with my love of hurting people.
So sit back, pop open a cold bottle of Brazilian mineral water, enjoy some poached salmon with capers, and adjust the satellite, because we have a great show.
And there was much rejoicing.
Unleash the fury.
Unleash the fury!
Ladies and gentlemen of the universe, the next voice you hear.
Ladies and gentlemen, please listen carefully to this announcement. This is not just an ordinary Saturday night. You are in for an extraordinary Saturday night. This is going to be special. Please pay close attention because what I am about to say is very important. I need to make sure that you are all ready and even eager to hear what I'm about to say. So please stop what you are doing and please give me your undivided attention. You are not going to want to miss this. And if you want to do your friends a favor, you might want to call, text, or even use your social media to let everybody know what's going on. I am enthusiastic about what's coming, and you should be also. I usually am not this emotional, but this is monumentous. I hope that you understand. I am honored to make this announcement, and it gives me great pleasure to say, it's Erik Nagel.
Almost got it to 10 minutes after.
You're close.
Close.
I give you credit for getting close.
Almost there. If there's anything that I've learned in my 10 years of working for Opie and Anthony,
yes,
make the intro as long as possible to eat up as much time as possible.
Sounds like a plan.
Welcome to It's Erik Nagel. My name is Erik Nagel. Joining me tonight, my old buddy, used to be on a part of Saturday Night Virus.
That's right.
When the channel was The Virus.
Yeah.
From the Big Kev Geek Stuff Show.
That's right.
Were you OG? But I'm not calling you OG. Your
call
name's
me
Matt.
Matt is fine.
Geek Stuff OG.
Geek Stuff OG on Twitter.
Right.
Yep.
And he'll be sitting in here with me today. What else do we have here? Oh, Brian Shea from VideoGameWriters.com,
right.
Xbox Magazine. He'll be calling in a little bit later. We're going to talk about everything that happened with E3. I know it's a few weeks removed, but
That's
we
right.
weren't
Give
on the air.
The dust time to settle.
So we'll go through that. And Mr. Mike O'Mara will be joining the show probably about 8:40. Mike O'Mara, part of the radio team Don and Mike,
right.
went off on his own venture with the Mike O'Mara Show. Has a book out now called, I keep calling it Mic'd Up, but it's Open Mic. From corporate radio to new media. He'll be on a little bit later. We'll talk about that. And we've got a bunch of giveaways and stuff here too, because it's the first show, so we kind of have to bribe people to listen to the show.
All right, fair enough.
866-969-1969 is the phone number if you want to call in, or erockcomment@gmail.com if you want to email. You can do that as well. A lot of stuff to get here too, but I want to start with seeing Transformers 4 last night.
What an experience.
God awful.
Well,
both the experience and the movie.
Do we want to start from the phenomenon that was everybody clapping every 30 seconds during the trailers?
Right. I don't know what this
it's like we were landing
bullshit
a
is
plane.
where every trailer that aired, and there's usually like 6 to 8 trailers before the movie actually starts, they're applauding. But I think it's a certain demographic of people that applaud these things, because they're the same people that cheered when Bumblebee showed up on the movie.
I couldn't tell because the age range in the 843-hour-long movie last night went from like 3 months directly in front of me to I definitely saw a guy that looked like he might have been 80.
There were old people in front of me and a kid sitting next to me.
It was crazy.
But the Transformers movies are, look, this is the 4th installment.
Correct.
Not good.
No.
They've tried. It's just not good.
It's a shame because I feel like it could have really been good.
It could have.
But the writing was utter garbage. The one-liners, the hacky one-liners were so bad.
The glares that when they would look at Marky Mark and the Stanley Tucci's character.
Whatever
He's supposed to be like Steve Jobs.
Right.
So the movie is about, they're almost all extinct off the planet Earth, the Transformers.
Right.
But there's only a couple left, and they're trying to come back, and they find Optimus Prime. We're going to spoil the whole thing here for you.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen it yet, you don't want to be spoiled.
Because this is an awful movie, and I'm telling you not to go see this movie.
Yeah, don't go see it.
Don't buy the toys. No, nobody's buying the toys.
Well, but see, I want some of the toys.
No,
I just
garbage.
I just want Grimlock.
Well, we have some.
You have those.
We have some here that. Where is it?
And I don't even want the movie version of Grimlock, other than I'm a Grimlock collector and I feel like I have to have that representation. What I want is that 2-back that has the Gen 1 Grimlock in it.
Right. Well, just so everybody knows who's just listening to the show, we're not nerding it up the entire night. We're just starting off with the fact that Transformers 4 was really awful.
Sure.
But from the nice people at Hasbro, I have a couple of these Silver Knight, Optimus Prime figures. They're not the actual.
They don't
toys
actually transform.
that
though.
transform. They're
Yeah.
actually just like statues.
If they make a Transformers toy that doesn't transform, it's
Right.
completely pointless. In my personal opinion,
But
I'm
it's
just
silver, so they can charge
It's
more
cool.
money for it.
It's cool.
We'll give those away in a little bit.
Sure.
So after the phenomenon of people cheering for every fucking movie trailer that
That's
you
right.
saw, I'm trying not to curse here, but I got really mad about that. The movie, way too long, 2 hours and 40 minutes, not worth your time sitting in there. It's not even worth your time watching it at home.
No.
It's just so cliche to shit on Michael Bay. But I don't want to do that because he did, I guess, the best with whatever he was creating, but he changed too much. Characters' names changed, designs changed. It was just too much of nothing. Like there was no
Visually, I thought it
story,
was
there was
great.
nothing going on. There's little fight periods, and then there's a lot of nothing.
I think the story they were trying to tell could have been a good story.
Right.
It just was executed terribly. I will say one thing, though, in Michael Bay's defense.
Right.
In this movie, most of the Autobots actually, you could tell who they are in the fight
Right.
scenes because it seems like they brightened up the colors a whole lot.
Oh, they had to.
Well, yeah, I mean...
Because the last one was really dark.
Yeah. Dark to the moon.
Here's
so.
another spoiler for you.
Sure.
If you don't want to listen to this, then, I'll give you a second. The poster for the movie has, one of the posters for the movie has Optimus Prime riding Grimlock. Or for those of you who don't know, a dinosaur. And you want to see the Dinobots in this movie.
Of course.
You can wait for the last 15 minutes of the movie.
Literally.
Because that's where they are, and then it goes to credits.
Yeah, that's right. Although I heard today that they are going to play a pretty significant role in the next movie, and there is going to be a next movie. Apparently, it made $80 million so far in the first 2 days, so it's going to do well.
It's always going to
Of
make
course.
money because it's shiny. It's a big summer blockbuster. People will just go because there's nothing. What else was up against it this weekend?
I don't even know.
Nothing that really comes to mind as far as being serious competition to that movie.
Right.
So it's going to be number one automatically.
Of course.
It's garbage. The others were garbage. They get the names wrong. There was a character in the first movie called Devastator.
Correct.
Which wasn't Devastator.
No.
The second movie, Devastator is this robot where other robots form a bigger robot.
Yeah.
And they even got that wrong.
Constructicons.
Right. They got it all wrong.
Right.
Pretty much what I'm trying to say is don't see Transformers 4 Age of Extinction.
Wait for the Blu-ray. That's what I'll say. Because I think it might be worth watching, sort of, but wait for the Blu-ray.
I'm actually kind of glad I didn't waste my money on the IMAX. We had IMAX tickets.
We did.
I left Sam's show yesterday here.
Right.
Tried to get home, but there was a truck fire in the Lincoln Tunnel, so it closed everything down. So I had to go up to the George Washington Bridge, over there through Jersey to get to the movie theater. Took like 2 hours.
It took you almost as long to get there as the movie was long.
Right, and so we didn't make it in time for the IMAX movie.
Right.
And thanks to the wonderful people at Fandango, if you purchase your tickets on the app and you don't go, you can get it refunded.
Fantastic.
So they refunded it, and we got the cheaper movie just by watching it the regular, no 3D, nothing. And even that was a waste of time. So Transformers 4, Age of, I almost said Destruction, but
Age of Extinction, yeah.
I don't have a rating scale. I'm not going to give it a rating scale. I'm just going to tell you it's not worth your time. Don't waste almost 3 hours of your life.
Wait for the Blu-ray. Wait for Netflix. That's what I say.
Don't even wait for that. Just pretend it didn't happen. There's nothing after the credits.
If you're
don't
a
wait for that
Transformers
either.
fan, you might want to see it. That's all I'm saying.
It's complete garbage, waste of time. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has a new trailer
Yes.
out. If you're into that,
I don't get it.
I don't like how they make the turtles look like
Shrek.
All
They kind
right,
of look
let's
like
call
Shrek.
it Shrek. They look like Shrek. The nose and the teeth and the way the mouth is just too disturbing to watch. And this is more of a kid-friendly movie than the other ones.
It is. It's Nickelodeon, I think, that is actually working on it with Michael Bay.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like Steampunk Donatello, but not much. I like that Splinter actually looks like a rat. I hate that Shredder looks like Megatron.
Right.
I hate that.
Well, they changed the origin stories of Splinter and Shredder.
Of course,
again.
yeah.
They can't. I don't get why they can't just do how the stories were written. They did it with Transformers. They did it with G.I. Joe, I think, was off. The Ninja Turtles one now, the origins of everything here is completely wrong. It's not how it was written.
I will say that I like that they took a stab at themselves or a jab at themselves with that little interaction between Whoopi Goldberg and Megan Fox. The what are they, from space? No, that would be stupid, because if you remember...
were they aliens?
Yeah,
no, that would be stupid.
Yeah, because that was the big rumor for a while, that Michael Bay was going to make them aliens instead of mutated turtles. So I thought that was kind of silly.
Let's say hi to Bryce in Louisiana. Bryce, how are you?
Hey, Eric. First time. How's it going?
It's my first time too, sir.
Hey, first off, that intro was pretty fucking awesome. Congrats on that.
Well, it's to pay homage to those, I guess, who paved the way before I got here and ruined everything.
But yeah, man, I saw Transformers last night, and man, it was pretty awful. I really don't know what to say. I mean, I was going to ask you what you thought the douchiest line of the movie was.
You know what? There were so many douchey lines that I'm having a hard time. It's mostly. All right. Here's something we didn't talk about. It's not mostly Marky Mark that has the douchey lines.
He has one good one that I particularly liked at the end.
And Stanley Tucci has a good line too, where they're trying to run through a corridor, and there's these old Asian ladies. One's on a phone, one's on a walker, and they're moving very slow. They can't get around to them. And he's yelling at Marky Mark. He's like, "How the hell do you say get the fuck out of the way in Chinese?" And then he pushed the old ladies out of the way.
Right.
But the douchiest lines, I think, come from T.J. Miller.
Oh, God.
T.J. Miller is awful in this movie. He's awful in I've tried to like him since we had him in for Cloverfield.
Yep.
And that's where we first met him, and we had him in a couple other times. And I've tried to like the guy, but like after the Dane Cook incident that he had, and then just he comes off as this, he's trying to be Jason Lee. Like Jason Lee established being Jason Lee, and it worked for him in the Kevin Smith movies. It worked for him for My Name is Earl. Excuse me. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Off the mic. A couple of the other projects that he's worked on. TJ is trying to do Jason Lee's gimmick.
Right.
Comes off completely horrible. You want him dead as the movie starts. Like as soon as he shows up as the surfer dude, you already want him dead.
I applauded when they finally killed him.
Right.
I'm not even ashamed to say I applauded.
Bookmark half hour into the movie.
That's
he's
right.
dead.
Is that the Silicon Valley guy?
Oh yeah, he's in Silicon Valley, isn't he?
Yes.
The TV show.
Yes, I believe
he is in that. Yes, that would be the same guy.
I do like him in that movie. I mean, in that show. I'm sorry.
Bryce, what's your overall view of the movie? Are we a little too harsh on it? Is it because Michael Bay is attached to it that we're not liking this, or is it really I'm not seeing the forest through the trees on this movie?
I thought it was a fun movie if you would get it with a copy without the dialogue. Like if you could get a copy with the sound effects, it would be fucking awesome.
They don't even use the right sound effects.
You know what? If they cut out all the humans and left it just to the Transformers, actually none of their lines were terrible.
The human storyline with Marky Mark works up to the part where he finds Optimus, rebuilds Optimus, and then he's helping out a couple of things.
Right.
Then you could cut all the humans out of there, maybe except the corporate guy, Stanley Tucci's character.
He does create Galvatron,
right?
So
leave him there coming in later, but you don't need the rest of the human storyline in this movie.
No.
Yeah, I may be wrong, but I think the sequel that they set up for with Optimus taking off in the end, which I don't know when he got jets on his legs. But
yeah.
That's another thing.
Autobots are cars. They're not supposed to fly.
No. Oh, I think he flew. Didn't he fly in the cartoon at one point in time? In the original cartoon?
But he was wearing something else.
Oh, was he?
Yeah,
I
it wasn't
remember.
just in it. But Bryce is right. Bryce, what I'm going to do for you, since you're the first caller ever on this show here, and you were equally disappointed in this movie as I am, I'm going to give you one of these Silver Knight Optimus Prime statue things here from Hasbro.
Hey, awesome. Thanks, E-Rock.
All right, I'm going to put you on hold, and Adrian in the back there is going to get your number.
Awesome, thanks.
Okay. Get his other info, too. I don't know why I just said number, but get his address so we could send it to him.
We'll call him, we'll chat some more. It'll be fun.
And whatnot. Joe in New York. Joe, you're on. How are you?
E-Rock, this is actually really cool because I'm actually a huge fan of you.
Huge, what? You cut out. And that's not a Norton bit.
No, I said I'm a huge fan of you. I've always wanted to talk to you because I hate how they always smash you, especially like because you like your old toys. Hell, I'm almost 40 years old and I still buy Hot Wheels cars.
Nothing wrong with that, sir.
Well, actually, there is something wrong with that because now they used to have that treasure hunt series in Hot Wheels that made it somewhat important for collectors for Hot Wheels, and then they switched it up because they didn't think it was fair to everybody else. So now you have no idea what the specialty cars are unless you flip the thing over and look under the plastic and it says Treasure Hunter. Then you're fucked.
You lost me. I'm not a Hot Wheels guy.
I'm not either, but I knew a lot of people who did that. Anyway, sorry, Joe.
Yeah, Eric, I totally agree. I sit and still look at my cars. I got thousands of them, and just like when they messed with you about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, man, I had a bunch of them when I was younger, and I kind of wish I still had them.
I still have all my original from the original toy line. They're sitting in baggies in a box downstairs.
Have you seen my current Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle setup in my studio?
No, I have not.
It's the 4 turtles and Splinter, and now I have 70 Mousers completely surrounding them in like battle poses.
You have a lot of expendable income.
No, not really, but I do buy a lot of toys.
Joe, what did you think of Ninja Turtles? You saw the trailer, right?
I haven't got a chance to see the trailer yet. I drive a truck, so I'm never really around too much. But
what are you hauling?
Right now, frozen ice cream mix.
Oh,
mix.
That's interesting. Make your own.
Is this like the stuff where they make the sundaes at Carvel and McDonald's, that kind of mix?
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, that's really sweet. You ever have that?
No.
That's like the equivalent of the Simpsons episode where they have the squishy, where it's just all squishy and nothing else, and you freak out. It's good stuff.
Eric, you're a huge Simpsons fan, and I'm a huge Simpsons fan.
Yes, sir.
Tell me, they only said it in one episode. Which state are they from?
They don't ever say, because there's enough states that have Springfield in them, so it's supposed to be they're generic, like they're everywhere. But it is based on Matt Groening's time in Oregon.
Now, see, they said when they did the E! True Hollywood Story version, when they made it look like that in one of the episodes,
Right.
they called them a Northern Kentucky family.
Right, and they were totally lying to you.
Oh, see, I looked, there's Springfield, Kentucky.
No, it was a gimmick because everybody wants to know where it is, but there's so many states that have Springfield, they could be anywhere.
All right, well,
There you go.
listen, I love talking to you, and I know you probably got all the lines lit up.
Yes.
I just wanted to tell you, I really do. You're actually like my favorite guy on the whole show. I mean, you put up with so much shit, and I still can't believe they gave out your number on the air. Oh, I would have just walked in and smacked them.
I really wanted to, but in the end, I got a new fence for my house, so I'm pretty good with that. Thanks, Joe. I appreciate the call. Let's go to Tracy in California. Could be a guy or a girl. Tracy.
It's a guy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. So far, loving the show, guys. What I wanted to, and you're kind of the deal breaker so far, I'm not going to go see it, but was the saving grace of the movie Transformers, Optimus Prime riding the robot dinosaur.
No, that was
what?
aggravating.
It is kind of cool, but the problem with the Transformer movies, and I guess it goes back to the original G1 cartoon in the 80s, is that they don't really do everything to realistic scale, right? So if you have a human being and then Optimus Prime stands next to him, huge, like,
sure,
enormous. Right. But then the dinosaurs are huge compared to Optimus Prime, but when they flip to a robot, they're only a little bit bigger than what he is. So everything, the scale doesn't match anything. So now he's riding this huge dinosaur, which you can see in the poster online or in the movie trailer. That's not spoiling anything. But yeah, it's a little weird to see. It's cool when it happens, but it's one of the few moments in that movie that you actually enjoy.
But in the cartoon, I'm just going to get a little bit extra geeky just for a second. But in the cartoon, Megatron became the pistol, right?
Right.
But he could be a pistol himself. He could be a pistol that Starscream can hold. Didn't the Human hold him at one point too? So clearly they can change scale in some capacity.
Because of PC issues, they had to change it in the 80s from when he became Galvatron, he became a cannon instead.
Right.
They wouldn't sell the gun anymore
I remember.
because, it looked too much like a real gun.
Yep.
So now he's a tank and he's a fucking plane. Like, they kept changing him. That's the big problem with the movie. All the characters that you loved growing up and knew what they were, they keep changing their design and they're changing the actual vehicle that they are, or airplane that they are, or something like that.
Right. Well,
Drift was not a helicopter originally.
No.
Keep up the good work, guys, and Hoff rules.
Oh, you bastard.
What is that?
I know that guy on Twitter.
Who?
The guy that just called in the Hoth rules. He busts my balls about Hoth all the time.
All right, well, then maybe it's not not that important. Richard in Los Angeles. Richard, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing good.
Good. You know what? I think, and let me know if you agree with this. When it comes to the Transformers, I think we all know the movie's going to suck. But this time it really sucked because the action was so uninteresting that the movie was just completely ruined. I mean, with past ones, at least we were able to say, oh, well, at least that was cool. But this time there was such boring action that you could just care less. And so the storyline sucked. And if the action sucks, the whole movie just gonna fucking suck.
They've gotten to the point with CGI where you can't really tell, unless you're really staring at it, you can't really tell what's CGI and what isn't anymore. They've gotten it down with all the computer stuff. It looks really good. There's a scene in this movie where a spaceship is anchored into the not the Sears Tower. What's it called now? The Willis Tower, right in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That's it.
That and a couple of the bigger buildings around it. It shoots these anchors out so the ship can't go anywhere. It's docked. And Marky Mark and his daughter and the boyfriend are walking down the ropes for the anchor. And when they do the cutaway scenes where it looks like a helicopter's moving around and you can see everything, looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
But when they do the up close, it looks like it's as bad as like Cabin Boy. Remember that movie?
Wow.
Where you can see that like Marky Mark's on the strings or whatever it is that he's holding on to, but the background screen, they didn't mat it good enough or something that you can tell it's obviously
that's where they
bad
ran out of
CGI.
budget.
Maybe that's where they ran out of budget. But there's a lot of as he was saying, a lot of technical things in there that kind of really take you out of the movie.
Right.
And one more thing that really bugged the shit out of me was Michael Bay taking shots at himself. If you remember, they were like, that old man was sitting there going, "Oh, I hate movies nowadays. They're all sequels." And I was like, dude. And everyone in the audience went, "Oh, Trent. Oh, Michael Bay's making a hot shot of him." I was so fucking stupid.
Because everyone has been shitting on him since Pearl Harbor, maybe even earlier. And now it's the cool thing. He's like, "Look, I'm in on the joke. I'll take some shots of myself." And then it just makes everybody go, "No, you're a douchebag for taking shots of yourself. We hate you even more now."
But he's the douchebag that could literally just print money at this point.
Because he makes special effects movies that make $100, $200, $300 million, and he can get away with it. And we're all sitting here, shitting on what he does. But
we all go see it.
We all go see it. He makes millions of dollars. We're the idiots.
Of course.
That's why I'm telling you not to go to this.
He's making fun of us
With
with those jokes.
He's not even making fun of us. He doesn't care. He's got a great life. He doesn't care.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Well, the movie sucked. And anyway, I just wanted to say, that intro I loved it, but it kind of reminded me of the hallowed halls of the talk show. I was kind of like, ugh, but it still was.
Well, let me tell you about the legends that grace these Hallow Halls here at Sirius XM. I'll have to put that in the next intro. Thanks, Richard. I appreciate you calling in. Let's see what else we got here. Randy in Nebraska. Randy wants to talk about Ninja Turtles. What's up?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good.
How's it going?
Congratulations, Eric, on getting your show, buddy. It's about time.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, and I also enjoy The Consumer. I think you're going to save people a hell of a lot of money by giving them reports about this food out there. That's going to be cool.
For those who don't know who are listening, I do this thing on Twitter and Instagram called #TheConsumer. I review pretty much the shittiest food that you could eat as a human being. But I'm letting you know that just because it's bad junk food doesn't mean you have to take it and tolerate it. I'm telling you what's the good junk food from the bad junk food.
Sure.
Absolutely right. Yeah, no, I was just calling because I had the rare opportunity to be a photo double in Ninja Turtles 2.
Really?
Wow.
What's a photo double?
A photo double is where you are to look like the character, but not to be seen as yourself. I was the photo double character for Tatsu. And that's one character that you never hear about, is Tatsu.
I don't even know who that is.
I don't.
Oh, dude. Really? You guys know Ninja Turtles? Come on. Tatsu was the Japanese gentleman with the mustache who was Shredder's right-hand man.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I just didn't know the name, I guess.
So you look like Mr. Fuji?
Yeah, Mr. Obato, actually. He actually has the last name. Yeah, I actually look like him in the movie, but not, close enough to be seen as me. But, yeah, it was really a lot of fun. I got to see how everything worked, and the scene I was in was actually an accident that happened on the set. The junkyard scene where the turtles are in the net?
I don't know. You lost me. He's too nerdy even for me. Randy, thank you. I appreciate the call. I want to get to one of my guests here. He's been waiting. My buddy Brian Shea. He's from VideoGameWriters.com. He also writes for the official Xbox magazine and a couple other sites. He's Brian P. Shea on Twitter if you want to check him out. Brian, hello. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Eric?
Brian recently was out at the E3 convention out in Las Vegas.
Nice.
Got to see all the hubbub was about. All the conventions, all the displays, digital presentations, all that fun stuff there. Brian, what can you tell us? What were some of the highlights of E3?
Really, I think the best thing that we saw as a staff was The Witcher 3, which I didn't get to see, unfortunately, for myself. But it's a game coming out from CD Projekt Red. It's promising to be the largest RPG we've ever seen. and it just got pushed back to next year, I believe. So that was our biggest thing as a site. But my personal favorite thing was Far Cry 4, which is the sequel to
Far Cry 3 and Far Cry 2.
Yeah. Yes, that would be correct. But yeah, it's an open world shooter. Far Cry 3 was one of my favorite games of the last generation. It kind of strands you as a normal person on a desert island, and you kind of have to work your way through and like save your friends who are kidnapped by this crazy guy. And it's a really cool series, and I'm really looking forward to Far Cry 4. I had a blast playing it at E3.
You said you were telling me earlier about some new updates and new games that were coming out here. They did the new and final update for if you're a fan of the Street Fighter series, Ultra Street Fighter 4, which came out years ago, but they've just been updating with new characters and scenarios and all that stuff ever since. Now, this is the final update that's coming out?
Yes, it came out earlier this month. It's called Ultra Street Fighter 4.
Right.
And every indication I've heard, I've played it a little bit, but my fighting game expert reviewed it for us. He gave it a 5 out of 5. He said it's definitely the best iteration of the game that's come out so far. There's 5 new characters. It updates the existing characters to make them a little bit more balanced, because there were some that were like considered top tier that would just blow everyone away if you had like 2 skilled players playing each other.
Right.
And it also gave a couple of new strategic moves that you can use to kind of like even the field.
Some other games that came out, Sniper 3 Elite, Dead Rising 3 with new downloadable content coming out to the PC. I think people are excited for that if they like the Dead Rising series.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing about the Dead Rising 3 downloadable content, the downloadable content itself is actually exclusive to Xbox One. And what it is it's like the Dead Rising series, for those who don't know, it's just like kind of this crazy over-the-top zombie survival game.
Right.
And so Dead Rising 3 was kind of this big Xbox One exclusive, like one of maybe 3 big Xbox One exclusives when it launched. So the fact that it's coming to the PC is pretty significant. That comes out later this year. But as far as the downloadable content, which is exclusive to Xbox One, it's kind of like the main character stumbles upon this arcade machine just in like a warehouse somewhere, and he turns it on, and you can play through certain scenarios using like the Dead Rising 3 engine with a whole bunch of Capcom-themed items, and you can play co-op with friends and everything, but you can have like Mega Man power-ups and Street Fighter costumes and stuff like that. So it's kind of like a huge nod to other Capcom franchises, and I think a lot of the fans are really enjoying it.
Matt has a question for you, Matt.
Yeah, what can you tell me about the Order 1886? Because I've been trying to sort of read up on it and watch it, and I think that I might like it, but I'm not quite sure, and I can't tell what the hell the game is about still. It's like the neo-Victorian, steampunky sort of, but not really game.
Yeah, it kind of has that steampunky vibe to it. It won, I think, the most anticipated new IP award out of E3 for us. And basically, it's kind of like there's these monsters that are on the loose in 18th century, or I guess it would be 19th century, that's 1886. And you're part of this elite group of humans who are going around hunting them down. There's not a ton of information out there about it. I believe it's coming out in 2015 as a PS4 exclusive. It's definitely one of the games that's on every PS4 owner's radar. And they just revealed, speaking of games that are on people's radar, Uncharted: A Thief's End, which is going to be the first game of that series that comes to PS4. So that's another one that a lot of PS4 fans are looking forward to.
Okay. You had something here I wanted to ask you about with Xbox. Well, one, that commercial with the guy from Breaking Bad.
Aaron Paul?
Yeah. Aaron Paul is apparently causing a lot of problems because he says the commands in a way that the Xbox can hear it if you're playing, if the commercial's playing on television. So it's turning your box on, it's changing your channels. What is it doing?
Yeah, well, the thing is the Xbox One comes equipped with a Kinect. All of them used to come with it. They just released a version that doesn't have the Kinect for $100 cheaper. But if you have the Kinect enabled and attached, you can have voice commands. So I think O&A have talked about this a few times where, somebody will say Xbox sign out, and it'll sign somebody out of their profile, and it kind of screws up your game if you're playing.
Right.
So if people are just watching TV and this Aaron Paul commercial comes on, he's like, yeah, for a goal of a lifetime, I want to kick back and relax. And he goes, Xbox on. And everybody who has an Xbox that isn't already on, their Xbox is turning on.
Well, this is the same thing with those people who have the Xbox names as their gamer tag, that we talked about a long time ago, where if somebody yells, "What the hell are you doing?" Xbox off, and then it kills your game and people go crazy.
Yeah, and then there's another part where he goes like, Xbox, go to Titanfall, and that can screw you up as well if you have Titanfall in your disk drive.
Well, Titanfall, I got to complain about Titanfall. It looks like a great game. The problem with Titanfall, I think, I'm not a multiplayer kind of guy.
MMO.
Yeah, like I like some games that do that, but I don't like a lot of those games. And that's one of these games where they don't have a solo version, a solo campaign to play. You have to play online. Is this going to become a new trend with games where everything's all so interconnected that you can't even play the game? Remember, the Xbox One was supposed to be connected all the time,
right?
Or else you couldn't use the damn thing, and people got all outraged and said, "I want to use my Xbox when I want to use it." Are games going in this direction where you go online to play the game, but that's the only way you can play the game? Like you can't play it by yourself anymore?
I think developers wanted to push it in that direction. That's why you saw that announcement from Microsoft with the Xbox One needing to ping to its servers every day to make sure you own the game.
Right.
And a lot of developers are kind of experimenting with the fact that now the Xbox One in particular has this extremely strong cloud server infrastructure to make sure that you can make it like EA Sports, for example, has had notoriously awful servers with some of their games. But Microsoft has made it so that they have like this super reinforced cloud server infrastructure, and that's what Titanfall was taking advantage of. But so a lot of developers are trying to utilize this new technology as best they can.
Right.
And they kind of want to experiment with it, like what we saw with Titanfall. Like they didn't have a single-player campaign at all. And there's a bunch of games coming out this year that aren't going to have any form of single-player. Or if it is, like you can only play against like bots, like Evolve, which is coming out later this year. It's meant to be online. It's 4 players versus one giant monster. All of them are human controlled, but you can also make it so they're also just bots instead if you just want to play by yourself. I think it's already kind of a trend, but I think depending on how fans either embrace it or reject it, we're going to see it going in one way or the other.
All right, Brian, we're getting a little pressed for time here, so I'm going to have to wrap this up. But I want to ask you 2 more things before you go. One, Nintendo. Nintendo Wii has been less than stellar for the Nintendo organization. A lot of people view Nintendo, and rightfully so, as being a kiddie product. It's not what it once was. It seemed for a long time that the Wii U was really going to be the end-all, be-all for Nintendo, that everything was tanking. But then Mario Kart 8 came out, and it's doing gangbusters, right?
Yep, it was just announced this week that it's sold over 2 million copies, which is really good for how few people own the Wii U, relatively speaking.
Right.
I mean, it's a year and a half in, and this is like its first must-have title that people are really flocking to.
Is this turning the corner for Nintendo, or is this just preventing the inevitable, just preventing Nintendo from dying out altogether?
Becoming Sega?
Right, yeah. Becoming Sega, exactly, where they'll just license their games and develop it for other platforms.
I don't think they're going to be doing that anytime soon, to be honest. I think Mario Kart 8 is pushing the ball in the right direction, and later this year when Super Smash Bros. Comes out, when Hyrule Warriors, which is a Legend of Zelda spin-off.
I was going to say, that's getting a lot of buzz, Hyrule Warriors.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's basically Dynasty Warriors, which is it's a pretty popular series over here, but it's very popular in Japan. It's pretty much Dynasty Warriors, a hack-and-slash action game, very fast-paced, with Legend of Zelda applied to it.
There's also a game called Mario Maker coming out, which you can design your own Mario levels and play your own levels.
That's cool.
Which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
So that might be something, but I don't see... Just banking on Mario and Zelda franchises is like DC banking on Batman and Superman franchises to keep their whole corporation afloat. So, I don't know.
Well, Batman, I don't know about Superman.
Maybe for the rest of the year they're doing okay, but I can't see a strong future with Nintendo unless they come up with some better franchises. Brian, I'm going to have to let you go. One last question. Will I see a Portal 3?
I think you'll see Half-Life 3 before you see Portal 3, to be honest.
Damn it.
It's going to be a while. I'm saying 2016 at the earliest.
All right. Brian, thank you for your time. We had a lot more to get into, but we have so pressed for time, and
well,
we don't want to bore
that 10-minute
everybody.
intro.
Right, yeah. Well, I'm learning from professionals here. Brian P. Shea on Twitter, videogamewriters.com. Check him out in Xbox Magazine, and I think that's about it. Brian, thank you for your time. I will talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right. Before I get to my next guest here, we have a copy of Watch Dogs for PS4.
Nice.
That I'd like to give away. 866-969-1969 if you want to if you want to win that game. It's for PS4. I don't have PS4. I was thinking about it. I might do that over the Xbox One because everyone who has Xbox One isn't happy with it.
I'm going to get a PS4. I think at this point I'm waiting for Disney Infinity 2 to come out just because it comes out right after Christmas, and that'll be right around the time I could probably afford a PS4, but that's where I'm going to go.
So we'll give that game away here and move on to a legend in the radio business, Mr. Mike O'Mara. Mike, how are you?
Eric, how you doing?
Thank you, sir, for calling in. Mike O'Mara is from the former team of Don and Mike, who were syndicated all around the country, and started up the Mike O'Mara Show in 2009. He's been doing very well with his podcast network, and now he has a book, Open Mic, From Corporate Radio to New Media. Mike, what can you tell me about this book?
I can tell you that, the first thing I want to say, hearing you talk about a PS4 is, hey, guys, not now. Thank you. Thanks so much. Eric, let me tell you something. I'm up my house in the great state of Maine.
Okay.
And I want to just tell a little story about, when you're trying to do any kind of interview or you want a quiet moment, I went to the one part of the house that I thought would be the quietest part of the house, and I'm bringing about 9 people in here, and about 8 of them just came up the stairs clunking luggage.
The bathroom?
And I am going to tell you something that I also called you, not to say this house is old, but hearing you talk about a PS4, this is a true story, I called you on a rotary dial telephone.
Oh, my God. They exist?
I don't even remember the last time I used a rotary dial telephone, but this is up on the coast of Maine in a very old house. And just hearing you talk as I was waiting on hold and realizing that I was using it, I'm staring at this thing like it's something I'll never see again. And I have to ask you how the audio quality is, because this phone was used seriously, probably back as far as the early 1950s, and I'm not exaggerating.
Mike, well, in a digital world where cell phones rule all, it's nice to be calling from a landline.
I know. Well, we used to, you're a producer, and I've done plenty of these where it's still not reliable, and cell phones, so when I can be near a landline, I will always call on a landline. But I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to chatting about the book, because it's a labor of love, and we're really excited about it, and I'm excited about the response the book is getting, and a little bit surprised as well.
It's available on Amazon, also available for the Kindle, which You're the first book that I've ever downloaded for a Kindle.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. The Kindle sales are doing really, really well with the book, and the primary motivating factor for this entire project was to service our fan base online with the Mike O'Mara Show at MikeO'MaraShow.com. And if we can bring other people to the party, I think really the book just tends to speak to people that went through any kind of a downsizing, went through any kind of a layoff, went through a reinvention, which is really that's really what the book is about. It's about how to reinvent yourself, and so many people had to reinvent themselves during the recession, and are still reinventing themselves and coming out on the other side not only whole but ultimately happier, which there were a lot of surprises during that little journey.
And for a lot of people that listen to this channel that are Opie and Anthony fans, you know the history of the show as far as all the problems that Opie and Anthony went through, from Sex for Sam to Satellite to the syndication on CBS, leaving CBS, coming just to SiriusXM after the merger. You know all those stories. This is another tale of a very popular radio show, a duo at one point, going through similar things where they were all over the country on terrestrial radio. Mike went through a hard time when Don decided to take leave of radio and leave of the show, reinvented himself with a whole cast of characters for the Mike O'Mara Show, only to fall victim to the CBS downsizing through no fault of his own and other shows. It started pretty much with KLSX in Los Angeles, where they got rid of Adam Carolla and Tom Leykis and everybody that was on that channel. And then it just went across the country, where all these FM channels became sports or Spanish. And despite how well they were doing, syndication and all that, they still got the axe just because it was cheaper to have a sports channel or a Spanish channel than pay out all these big contracts and what have you. Mike started up a podcast network after leaving terrestrial radio, which from what I understand, you were not really sold on doing podcasting.
No, not at all. One of my partners, Oscar Santana, from the old Big O and Duke show, which people around Washington and Arizona would be aware of. I don't want to say that he dragged me kicking and screaming, but he definitely had to sell me. And you mentioned Adam Carolla, and that was a name that was very prominent when Oscar was selling me on the idea, because Adam had been very, very successful launching his own podcast. But I was brand new to it. My idea of a podcast was, a kid in the basement, in his mother's basement, Rupert Pumpkin down there, just Pumpkin, just screaming, "Mom, be quiet! I'm trying to do a show." And I didn't want to do it, and I was worried about it, and I certainly didn't think I was going to be making a living doing it as well. And it ended up being something that was just a true joy to do, and the most satisfying thing I've done in my career, and the most pleasurable thing I've done in my career. Don and I had a tremendous run, and we really had a very good network across the country. And after that, I was kind of without a rudder. I didn't know what was going on, and the idea of after the Mike O'Mara show on terrestrial radio got the boot when they flipped to the sports format that you mentioned, all I wanted to do was get another radio gig, and I went to work across the street at another FM. And the strange thing about that was this was a classic rock station where I was hired to do a morning show with another guy named Kirk McEwen. And I immediately walked into that situation, and because I just wanted a gig, I probably didn't vet them as much as I should have, and I walked right into the exact same situation where I smelled it immediately that they were going to have some sort of format change, and that was to go to right-wing talk. So within a 2.5 year period, after about a 20-year run, I was out the door again, and it was just amazing. And the only thing I did during that period that I did the morning show on terrestrial radio was hold on to my podcast. So I would do the morning show till 9 o'clock in the morning. I would beat feet out of D.C. To the Virginia suburbs to do my podcast. And it was during that period of time that I realized I'm not having fun doing this terrestrial radio show, but I am having a blast doing the podcast. And we just kept chugging. And then when they flipped that format, the podcast became my sole radio show, my sole show rather, and it's just continued to grow. And I'm just I'm having so much fun. It's a condensed version of what I've done my entire career. It's 79 minutes, and we've got a very active audience, and it's just a lot of fun to do the show. I'm having more fun now than I've ever had before, and one of the reasons for that is because of the mobility of it. I mean, I'm up here in a cottage on the coast of Maine that was probably built in the early 1900s, and we're moving the whole thing in here, and we're going to have all the guys doing a week of shows from here, and we can take the show on the road. I can do the show anywhere I want to do the show, and the technology exists now to do it and do it with broadcast quality. And I'm having so much fun, and it also makes for great content when you get a bunch of idiots under one roof in different locations. We're just having so much fun. It's terrific.
Mike, let me just ask you a quick question as far as finding out that you're done with terrestrial. You shop around, you have an agent, you're not getting bites from any other networks, any other channels.
Right.
What is, from the business the business model there, what is the setup as far as doing a network the way you did it? Not just like where it's a couple of guys can just record into a MacBook and put it up on Libsyn and iTunes,
right,
but to do an actual network as a business model to get advertisers, to get sponsorships, to get all these things. What does it take to do that? How long does it take to do that?
Well, the network that you talk about, and there are a limited amount of shows. I don't have a lot of shows on the network. I've got It's Mickey, which is it's Mickey Coachella, who's a very, very legendary morning man in Baltimore that left terrestrial radio, and he's doing a podcast. And then I've got a highlight show of my week of shows that comes on once a week. And we have a tech show called Tech 411, and then we've got Rob Spiewak, who does another show once a week as well. All the shows on the network are basically value added for my advertisers.
MikeO'Mara.com. MikeO'MaraShow.com. Mike O'Mara Show on Twitter. The book is Open Mike, From Corporate Radio to New Media. It's available on Amazon and on Kindle. I definitely suggest getting it if you're a radiophile like myself to see how other people deal with all the sides of the business, not just the shows that you love, to hear that everybody kind of goes through the same bullshit with this industry. and you can recover from it. Now it's a do-it-yourself kind of world. Mike is a classic example of doing it all by yourself.
Yeah, and I wanted to say one last thing too. Since with Opie and Anthony and with Don Geronimo and people that I've worked with, there are a lot of ups and downs, and people do move on. And one of the things that I really touch on the book also is that at the end of the day, you realize that we're all in this insane business, and we're just trying to survive. We're feeding our families like anybody else, and I really do. I just turned 55. I'm sitting here. I do a lot of reflecting on my career, and the fact is that I really genuinely. I told you this off air when we chatted before that we had a pretty good radio feud back in the day with Opie and Anthony, and the fact is that with all of that, when the microphones are on, it's a different reality than real life, and ultimately, with people that I've worked with, and if there are hurt feelings when people go in one direction or another direction, or you have a radio feud, ultimately I think it's necessary to really move forward, and the buck stops with you. And that's why, with O&A and also with Don Geronimo and with everyone else, it just does no good to look back and to not keep your eyes on what's the next big thing, because sometimes things step up and surprise you. And that's why when I said to you, and I meant it, that I wish Opie and Anthony nothing but the best. And they're survivors, just like Don's a survivor and I'm a survivor. And who knows the next time we're going to have to deal with another bump in the road. And I have tremendous respect for all the people in our business that do that. And you know this, Eric, it is a business where you have to be ready. You have to always be in the athletic position, because you never know where the ball's coming. You know? And I have a tremendous amount of esteem for all the people that I've worked with, and I've gotten along better with some than with others. But the fact is, I do ultimately wish everybody the very, very best, because it's a tough business to maintain your sanity in, and it's a tough business to survive. And I really have a lot of respect for people that I've worked with.
I can't speak for Opie and Anthony themselves, but I think the feeling is, as far as Don and Mike go, that it's all water under the bridge. Everyone's moved on, and wishing everybody the best on that.
Yeah, and it's as I said, the podcast world is new, and it's growing, and I think there's a tremendous potential audience out there, as well as the one that we already have. And I didn't think at this stage of my career I'd really be looking forward to the future as much as I am now. And it's all basically in the book, including some very twisted things and why I grew up the abnormal person that I am today.
MikeO'MaraShow.com, Mike O'Mara Show on Twitter. The book is Open Mic, From Corporate Radio to New Media, available on Amazon. Mike, thank you so much for calling and returning the favor of allowing me to return the favor, actually, for an interview that we did not too long ago, which is going to come up. I'm going to put it online somewhere, called The Radio Inquisition, and I interview Mike about his whole history with Don and Mike and the Mike O'Mara Show and everything else. That'll be coming soon. Mike, thank you so much for your time.
Eric, a pleasure. Thanks a lot, man.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
We are running out of time here. Let's go to AJ in Baltimore. You want Watch Dogs on PS4?
Absolutely, Eric.
Okay, all right, you got it. I'm going to put you on hold. We'll get to you in a little bit. Line 6, Adrian, in a little bit. Matt, want to plug your wares?
Of course.
Oh, wait, you're not on. There you go.
Oh, am I on now?
Yeah, you hit the thing. Go ahead.
Of course, if you want to check out more geeky talk, comics, games, toys, etc., you could check me, Big Kev, and our other guy, Scapegoat, out on BigKevsGeekStuff.com. Every week, we've been doing the podcast for 8 years. We run the virus for a bit at night on Saturday nights, and we talk about all that kind of fun stuff. So, BigKevsGeekStuff.com, and of course, I'm at GeekStuffOG on Twitter.
It's on iTunes as well, right?
It is on iTunes. Okay. You can find it on all the podcast apps.
Well, the first show is pretty much done. It's a bit geekier than I really wanted to go.
Hey.
No, but if like more in depth, and you guys go into some much more weirder areas than I could ever go to.
Well, yeah.
Like I said, Big Kev's Geek Stuff on iTunes and the website. Go to that. The next show is in 2 weeks. Yes, they're letting me do a next show unless I get pulled into a meeting on Monday and saying this show was horrible. Right. You're not doing this again.
You never know.
We'll be on in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And we didn't even get to some of the other stuff. I wanted to talk about The Leftovers. Starts on
It starts
hold
on
Hold
Sunday.
on. I'm pausing. So if they replay this on Monday, Jimmy and Anthony can get in all their jokes.
Right.
Okay, moving on. The Leftovers on HBO starts tomorrow night.
That's right.
At 10 p.m.
I believe so.
It looks great. It's supposed to be The Rapture, but not really The Rapture.
I think that's a red herring.
Yeah. So people disappear off the planet, and they don't know why. They
2% of the population.
They think it's a religious experience that's going on here. And the Ninth Doctor from Doctor Who is in there. We didn't even talk about Doctor Who.
No, not at all.
Coming back in August. So we got to get out of here. Thank you, everybody. E-Rock Radio on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And see you again in 2 weeks for It's Erik Nagel.
It's Erik Nagel. And that's all the time we have. Follow the show at It's Erik Nagel on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Unless we do something stupid or...